Hey everybody, welcome back to Why Not RV. On this week's episode, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to diagnose and change out your water heater heating element for the electric heater. Remember, if you want to learn more and make less mistakes while RVing, be sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like and a comment down below. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Now, I'm not sure if any of you guys remember, but basically when I picked up this RV from Longview, Texas, essentially the electric heat the electric side of the water heater was on and I didn't even know it, okay? It was a new RV to me. I didn't know what any of the switches meant. And long story short, it was on, no water was in the tank because it was winterized, and it burned it up, okay? So, but just to verify that that's what happened, let me show you what I did and how you can diagnose your water heater to know if your heating element is bad. When it comes to pretty much anything electrical, I try and say for diagnosing something, all you have to do is trace your last known power source, okay? And what that means is, where does power stop? Or if power is making it all the way to a certain device and that device isn't functioning, well, now you know that that piece itself is what's bad. So in here on my water heater, I have the wiring harness up here for the control board. This white wire is what is the switch wire for the electric water heater. That has power, so we're good there. Now, just to skip, because I was like, I'm just going to go right to the source. I took off this cover. Now this cover is just held on just by a few screws. I just took those off. But here's my heating element right here. And like I said, I just went straight to the source to see if this was getting 120 volts. So I used my multimeter, and sure enough, it was. So right there, I knew, okay, well, power is getting all the way to the heating element and nothing's happening. So the heating element itself is bad. We need to go ahead and disconnect these wires. Okay, we have a neutral and we have our hot. So we're gonna go ahead and get these disconnected. Now, of course, when you are doing this, make sure you do not have power on. There's no power going to this. Otherwise, you are gonna be in for a nasty surprise. In order to swap out the actual heating element, okay, when I pull that out, it's gonna come out with a lot of water. So first thing I'm gonna do is actually, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the drain plug just to avoid all the water over here. So in my case, it's just an actual drain plug. I don't have an anode rod, but a lot of RVs don't have aluminum tanks and they have an actual anode rod. But I'm gonna pull this drain plug all the way and let the water start coming out. I'm gonna open up this upper valve and let air in the system. And now it's just flowing right out. Of course, this should go without saying, but obviously when you're draining out this tank, you want to make sure you have water off, you want to have the water pump off, and you want to have your city water hooked up from the campground, if that's your case, all off. Otherwise, you're just going to keep on flowing water through. Okay, so now that this is pretty much all but drained out, there's still a little bit, but this drain hole is lower than where my heating element is at. I'm going to go ahead and pull the heating element out because now that the water's low enough. So we're going to go ahead and get that pulled out. Now, you do need a special socket available on Amazon. I will drop a link in the description below to where I bought mine. Just because of its location, you might be able to finagle some wrenches on there and pry it, but I don't recommend that. You're going to end up cracking the housing or something else. So just spend the few bucks. I want to say it was like $8 or $9 for that special socket. And let me grab it for you. It's just this. It's a big socket that essentially fits back in there right over top of it. And now I can get this thing out of here. So now, using that special socket, I've taken the old one out and we have the new one. I'm just going to go ahead and put right in here and use that socket to go ahead and get that tightened up properly. Now, there's already a rubber gasket on it, so you don't need to over tighten it. It's just like a garden hose fitting, right? You want it just nice and snug, but not crazy tight. Whenever you break it loose with your socket, you should kind of get a good feeling of how tight you should be putting it back to. Now I got the new one back in there. I'm going to go ahead and get my drain plug put back on here and tightened up. Again, if you have an anode rod, you're just going to put your anode rod back in there. We're also going to close this valve back over. And then once we have this shut, we're going to go ahead and put our neutral and our hot wire back on there. Now, makes no difference. Either one of those two can have either one of the two, okay? Neutral and hot are interchangeable on that. It does not matter which ones they go to, unless the one you get specifically tells you, but most of them don't. It doesn't really matter. So we're just gonna go ahead and get that hooked up next. And also, when I have everything back together, I put my city water back up to start to refill this tank. So I did actually open up this valve to let all the air out. And then once this thing starts to have some water come out of it, I'm gonna go and shut it off. I'll go inside and I'll bleed the hot line until I get all the air out of the system. So I have my neutral and my hot back on there. I have the drain plug back on. I have this closed off now. I've refilled the tank and I bled the water from inside. So, spit some air for a while. And now that's done, I went ahead and turned on the electric switch for electricity. And again, I'm getting my 120 here. So now this should be heating up the tank. So we'll check in about 20 minutes to see if we actually have some hot water. So here's another quick way for me to be able to tell that it's working, just because I have the Victron system. Again, if you don't have this, you're just going to have to wait to see if you have hot water in 20 or 30 minutes. But I know that right now my AC load with everything off is only 29 watts. So if I go into the bathroom and go ahead and turn on our electric side of the water heater, come back over, and now I have 1400 watts, 1427. So the heating element is working, so it's actively heating that water. So I know that I'm good to go. That's it for this week's video. Thanks again for watching Why Not RV. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment below. We'll see you next time. Bye.